Okay, so I will start the introduction first. Just you may pause the music. So welcome everyone to the. Just may you mute for a while because you have echo. Yeah. Okay. So welcome everyone to our Python beginner workshop. So today we're gonna teach about basics about Python. It'll be very basics no matter you are like total beginners which are not introduced to programming before, or you are a little bit experienced. You can it is like a refresh of your knowledge. It is suitable for like totally beginners or even intermediates. Yeah. So this is our the first event which is hosted by XMUM Tech Lab, or we call it XTech. So wish you guys have a happy night today learning Python. It is a very good programming language. It can do a lot of things and a lot of capabilities. So first, I would like to introduce you to our speaker tonight, XiXi. Then he will take over and we will start the session directly. Is it okay? So I want to see you guys probably in the chat session. You can say okay, or you can say just hi. What's your name? For example, hi, I'm Kim, or hi, I'm Daniel, and those kind of things, right? Okay, which you guys can a little bit active there. And as shows in the first slide, if you have any question, you can ask at the chat box. We will have moderators to actually respond to you guys lah. Okay, and there is a Python handbook provided by Hee ZiXi, Daniel, which is our speaker tonight. You can download the handbook, which include all the codes and essentials for tonight's session. Okay, so I'll pass it to ZiXi. Daniel, you can unmute yourself and let's start.
Right. Thank you, Kim. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'll be your speaker for tonight for 2 hours. I hope I don't mess this up. Okay, so first, I would like to welcome all of you to our Python Beginner 101 course by XTech. So if you have any questions in the chat, do feel free to leave them in the chat box, and I'll begin shortly. Just let me sort out a few things. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin, shall we? Right. So I know it's been a long day for each and every one of you, and I'll try to not make this as much a lecture as possible. I'll try to make it as interesting as possible, but there are limits for me as well. I'm still new to this. So there are 2 suggested ways to take this workshop for you. It's my personal suggestion. The first way is the typical lecture format, taking notes, follow demos, try questions, etc. Or the second way, which I recommend more, is grab a snack or grab your dinner, sit back, relax, and just listen as though you're having a conversation with me, a friend who is sharing what he or she learned. You can even open music in the background if you want, because everyone is muted by default. Only I can speak for now, and Kim actually. So when there are questions being posed, you can look at the questions, think about them, and try to do them if you want. It's not compulsory, and just see if you're correct. Okay. So I'm going to expect most of you, some of you have programming backgrounds, right? But most of you will be expecting no programming backgrounds. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today. I hope we can cover everything. Introduction, data types, the first program, if and else, and while loop. Okay, so the introduction part. We'll be using references from automateTheBoringStuff.com. It is a Python programming lesson, which with very basic introduction stuff and very average, and everyone can use it in their daily lives. It's more about automating your daily lives, actually. So the first thing is, what do you know about programming? For many beginners, programming seems hard, but actually programming is actually basically just entering some instructions into the computer. So how do these instructions look like is, for example, maybe in your primary school or your secondary school in Malaysia, we have chemistry or physics class, right? Physics lab classes. So you are given steps to follow to do an experiment. Or you can think of instructions more like you're following a cookbook to cook a dish, like if you cook maybe fried chicken or something. There are several steps for you to follow, right? So programming is essentially that, but you are the one who are creating that steps, right? You're creating those steps for the computer to follow. For instance, you can think of it like this. Like imagine you're teaching someone how to cook. You might say, well, when the pasta is not cooked yet, just leave the water continue to boil. If the eggs are rotten, discard them or just throw the eggs away. These might seem arbitrary or seem easy, but this is what fundamentally makes up programming, right? So programming is essentially giving instructions to your computer. So another big misconception for programming is people often think that mathematics is compulsory for programming, but actually it is not. Programming is more of a logic-based activity, a more of a creative activity if you think about it. It's like Minecraft and Lego. Since you're designing instructions, you get to decide what you want, right? So last words before we get started for real into Python, right? So what if you don't remember anything from today? Okay, I'm here to tell you it's fine. Okay, don't be disappointed. I took 1 semester to learn programming and I haven't mastered it. This is just 2 hours. And frankly, learning a whole semester in 2 hours is just unrealistic. Okay, so the true goal of this workshop is for you guys to have an idea for concepts in programming. Okay, so if you only get one thing from this workshop and you don't get anything else, programming is not about memorizing. Okay, so most of the time it's learning how to Google your problems. Yes, even now as I tackle my projects, I'll go into the project and I'll like not know half or even like 90% of what I'm doing, and everything can be accomplished if you know what to Google. All right, programming is not about memorization. It is a creative activity and is a very building-like activity. You're giving instructions to the computer and the computer is going to help you to do stuff, right? Okay, so let's start for officially for real. Okay, now sit back and relax. I'm going to start talking about Python. So Python is the programming language that we're going to learn today. It is one of the most forgiving languages in programming for beginners. And however, it is also very much supported by various people with various functions to do various things, essentially. So it is used in fields like, for example, data science, machine learning, and data analytics, including all of these at the left side of the screen, as you can see. It is also used by Tesla. So what they do is they use Python to build an initial prototype, which is an initial thing that they can use to test before converting them into a more optimized programming language. So Python essentially allows for rapid development and accelerated development, right? So I'm going to talk about what are we going to use today. We'll be using a website called REPL, repl.it. So if you don't know how to find this website, right, just go to Google. Okay, do I really need to show this? Google. Okay. This is Google, right? So just type in repl.it, REPL, okay? You'll see this pop up, the first one. Click this. It'll bring it the main page. You can choose to log in or sign up, but it's not compulsory. Just drag to the bottom. You'll see a lot of languages here, all right? Look for Python, this one, not Python 2.7, Python, okay? Click it. Okay, you'll arrive at this page with a print hello world, and this is basically the website that we're going to use today. So the left side is what is known as a file. You can treat this as a text file. The right side is known as an interactive shell. So don't memorize it. I know because I'm looking at the book and my script for this course. Okay. So both of these allow code to be executed, but the left side, this one, allows us to write multiple lines of code. The right side only allows us to execute code directly. So after we type in one sentence, for example, it allows to execute it directly. All right. So in case here I have a bunch of errors, right? So right, in this interactive shell, you can do very arbitrary and interesting things, right? So For example, you can do 5 plus 5. It will give you 10, right? Or 2 plus 2, right? It will give you 4. You can do arbitrary and easy things like that, right? So, as you can see just now, in my REPL here, if you type 5 plus, we get an error, right? One of the errors is a syntax error. So, what is a syntax? This is one of the core structures of a programming language. So, syntax often is referred to as syntax, but essentially it's the grammar of the programming language, right? It's called a programming language because the language has a grammar, right? For example, in English, if I say, hi, my name is Daniel, you will understand it, right? I'm telling you my name is Daniel. But if I word it like this, Daniel, name, hi, it's like, I'm not making sense, right? You just think, okay, this is a stupid person, or this guy got something problem, right? So syntax error is essentially the computer doesn't understand what you're talking about, just like you're not making sense grammatically to the computer, right? So programming language has syntax. So we're gonna start by talking about the syntax and what programming language is made of. So the first thing about programming language is it has something called data types and variables, right? So in normal languages that we use every day, we have two things, right? Mainly comprised of two things, words and numbers. Well, that's more than that, but yeah, I'll just go for that. Okay, numbers to computers is essentially integers and floats, right? Integers are known as whole numbers, and floats are known as numbers with decimal points. Notice I said that floats are numbers with decimal points. So 2.00000 is a float, while 2 itself is an integer. That's the definition. One has a decimal point. The other one does not have a decimal point, right? So along this course, I'm going to be demoing with REPL here, right? So you can follow along at home, or you can just watch me do it. Like, you don't have to follow along, right? Okay. So just now I have demonstrated, I can do simple things like 2 plus 2, right? It'll give me 4. Now, if you look at 2 plus 2, it is an instruction, right, for the computer. You tell the computer, okay, I want to execute 2 plus 2, right? So what does this actually mean, right? An instruction, what is comprised of? So this instruction 2 plus 2 is a very basic kind of instruction where you have 2, which is the value. Well, you guys know what value is, right? And plus, which is an operator. An operator is what we usually use in maths, right? For example, divide, times, multiply, plus, exponent. Here's a table for you guys to look at. It is also included in the handbook. You can refer to it as I type the code along, right? So now I'm going to go to demo of all the symbols for these operators. Okay, for example, you know there's plus here, 2 plus 2, right? You can also do minus, 3 minus 2, or multiplication. But multiplication here, we don't use the value x, right? Like when we normally write multiply is x. But in programming language, it is the symbol star plus a number. Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15. There's also division. For example, if I do 5 divided by 2, it give me 2.5, right? These are everything that we know before. So there's also exponent. Normally in maths, we would do this symbol, or we will write 3 to the power of 2, right? But in Python, we use this symbol, which is 2 multiply symbols, right? So you get 3 to the power of 3, which is 27. Now I'm going to introduce you to 2 new operators. One is known as the float division, and the other is known as the modulus, right? The float division is, you can think of it essentially as taking the lower value of a division, right? So for example, let's take 5 divided by 2, right? It is 2.5. Now you see that 2.5 is housed between 2 and 3, right? You can think of 2 as the floor for the number 2.5, right? Imagine you're in a room, the middle part might be 2.5, so the floor is 2 and the ceiling is 3, right? So we can do a float division, which is represented by 2 slashes, and it'll give us the float answer for our division, which in this case here is 2, right? So if we do 5 divided by 3, normally we'll get 1.67. But if we do a float division, we'll get 1, which is the lower value for this division, okay? Another one that I want to introduce you is modulus. What modulus is it gives us the remainder of a division. For example, if I take 4 divided by 2, the remainder will be 0, right? So if I do 4 modulus 2, right, 4 can be divided by 2 completely, right? So you get a remainder of 0. Let's say you want to do 5 divided by 3, right? 5 divided by 3, you get a remainder of 2, right? You can't fully divide 5 by 3. So you get a remainder of 2. What modulus is essentially, it gives you the remainder of a division, okay? So you don't need to memorize this, just listen to it and just understand it, okay? Now, now that we know we have numbers, okay, so how about words, right? We have numbers, then we have words, right? So to computers, words and sentences are known as strings, okay? So strings are encased in quotes, single quotes, or double quotes. You can choose either one of them, but I would recommend using single quotes. Most programming languages use double quotes, but Python prefers single quotes, right? You can use them interchangeably, of course. Right. So now a problem with this is, let's say you want to give the computer an instruction, right? You want it to print something on the screen. Okay, let's say I want it to print, okay, something, 1 plus 1, right? So now I have a question. Do we print 1 plus 1, or do we print the answer of 1 plus 1, which is 2? It's a very confusing thing for the computer, right? Because you're not being specific as to what you want, right? So Python solved this by being specific, which is using quotes, right? So if we encase all of this in quotes, it will know, okay, the user wants me to literally print this thing out, right? So if I run this, it will literally print this thing out, right? You have to be specific with the computer, right? Okay, so for words, we can actually do addition with words, right? So if I ask you to combine 2 words, let's say I want Alice, right, plus Bob, right? We will get Alice Bob. Now, you might realize that there's no space between these 2 words, right? Because you haven't given a space. So if you want a space, you have to specify a space, right? And it would be a space here, right? You have to be very specific for the computer. Now, something I want to emphasize is that this one and this one is not the same thing, right? So if you look at the left one, it is encased in single quotes, right? So this is known to the computer as a string, which is a word. The right side, which is not encased in quotes, is known to the computer as an integer. So why does this matter, right? Let's give an example, right? If I write 1 plus 1, right? Well, to you, this may be very obvious, right? Obviously, it wants me to add 1 plus 1, right? But to the computer, what does it see? It does not see that. It sees word plus number, right? If you want to add a word and a number, it doesn't make sense, right? So the computer is not smart enough to differentiate what is a word and what is a number. So we as programmers have to do it. That's why we have very specific things like numbers, floats, and words, and strings, right? These things help us to be specific with the computer and tell it what we really want, okay? That is the basic introduction for strings, right? Okay, I only put this here because I can put this meme. People say age is a number, but it's actually a word. Right, okay. So another type of data type is Boolean. Boolean just basically represents true or false values, right? I'll go into this more in detail later. Just know that you can hold true or false values, okay? So, as much as we can do a lot of things with just knowing 2 plus 2, 1 plus 1, we know, okay, it's a word, it's a string, it's a data type, right? So what if we can store it and reference to that particular thing in the future, right? So Python provides us something called variables, right? You can think of variables as a box, okay? You can name the box to save values for future use, right? It is similar to a box that can store something. For example, if I create a box that has name, I know, not a creative name, then I can store this Abu inside this box, right? I can use it in the future. Okay, so this, right, you can think of variables as a box, okay? So now the question comes, how do we create a box, right? In Python, you create a variable or a box by simply typing the name of the box. Now, let's say I want to name the box. Name of the box, okay? Equals, okay, this is the name of the box that we're going to name it, called name of the box. Yeah, it's not very creative. I'll just put it in here. Right? And we can store something in it. Okay, let's say you want to store, or I don't know, your name, Abu. Okay, when we do this, we've already stored the name Abu inside a box called name of the box. Yeah, it's not a creative name. So let's say we want to see what's inside the box, right? So using this terminal, this is called terminal, you can do name of the box. It will give us back Abu, right? So a thing to remember with names for these boxes is the capital and lowercase letters matter, right? So if I do name of the box, like the first thing is a capital letter, it is not the same thing. It will say that it is not defined, which means we haven't created the box yet. So just remember that capital and lowercase letters are different in terms of the name of the box that we give it, right? So what else can we store in this box, right? We can actually store numbers, okay? So let's say I want to create a box called bacon. I'm hungry, yeah. Okay, let's type 42. It stores the value 42 for us, right? So we can do expressions, normal expressions to it, right? So for example, you want to add 2 to the thing in bacon. So we can add 2, we will get 44, right? We can even add 2 boxes together, which means we're just taking the items in the box and adding them together, right? So let's say we have a box called x equals, I don't know, what's a good number, 34, okay? So I can add both of these together, bacon plus x, you'll get 76, which is when we take each of the items in the box and add them together, right? So these boxes are known as variables, okay? We can even change what is in the box. For example, let's say I want to reassign bacon with a new number, right? I can type bacon equals 4. Now I can see what's inside bacon. So it's 4, right? So let's say what if, okay, I want to add bacon and eggs together, then I want to store the value back into bacon, right? Because after we do this addition, right, the value inside doesn't change, right? If you see this, the value doesn't change. So what if we want to change it? Like we want to store it back into bacon, right? So what we do is we say, okay, I want to store it back in the box, right? So I want to store it back in the box. So what do I want to store it inside? So I'll just write, okay, I want to store bacon plus eggs. Now, if I do see what's inside the box, I'll see, okay, I've stored the new value, 38, inside bacon. So this is basically variables, or you can think of it as a box, right? This is one of the fundamental concepts for programming in Python, is variables, all right? So There are several ways you can name a box. It's entirely up to you, right? But there are some restrictions, such as, for example, hyphens are not allowed. You can use underscores, but not hyphens. Spaces are not allowed. Usually what we do is we use underscores to represent spaces, okay? And it also cannot be begin with a number. It also cannot use special characters. And yeah, like single quoted, single quotes, okay? Just please make your life easier and just use alphabets, okay? Alphabets and underscores, okay? Just don't make your world hard, right? Remember, simple naming is always better. There are a few naming conventions, I would say, that we use in programming. One is called camel case and one is called snake case, right? So this is just good practice. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing you, okay? So what we do in programming is we usually name the box. Let's say I have a box named eggs and bacon, right? Since we can't use space, we usually do eggs, we use an underscore, and bacon. We use underscores to represent space. Another way is we capitalize every first letter of the next word. So we can do eggs and bacon, right? So it is up to you, but this is just a good practice as to how you should name your variables, okay? Remember, simple and is better, so use your own judgment, okay? So now let's get into your first program, right? Okay. So a common, I would say, meme among programmers is that the first program that we always do when we get to a new programming language is called printing hello world, right? It's called print hello world. This has become a meme among programmers, right? So the first thing we do is always we print hello world in a programming language, right? So this is your first program. You can try with it at home. So what it does is essentially it just prints hello world on the screen, right? So let's do something more sophisticated, right? Let's make the computer ask for your name and then print your name with "it is good to see you," okay, right? So I'll just type the code out first. What is your name? Right? And let's say we have we design a variable to store our name, right? So my name is equals to, okay, this, I'll explain this later. Just type input, right? And print, it is good to see you plus my name, okay? So what we're doing here is we're printing what the first string or the first word, which is "it is good to see you," plus the name variable, the my name variable, okay? So if we run this, it asks us, what is your name? Okay, let's say my name is Kim. So it's good to see you, Kim, okay, right? So you might be asking, you might be thinking, right? So what is this input and what is this print? Okay. So what print and input is what I'm going to get to next, if I can switch back to these slides. Okay. Print and input are essentially functions, right? What is a function? You can think of functions as a machine that does stuff, right? It is provided by the language. There's a machine that is provided by the language, right? So for a machine, right, for example, an oven, as you can see here, you can give it things, right? For example, you have a cake mix, you put it in the oven, it will give you cake. Okay. Kim says you guys want to cook first. Okay. So you guys can try this first. If you guys are okay, just type in the chat. Or if you guys want me to continue, just type continue in the chat. My moderators, Kim, will also inform me later if you guys want to continue. Do you guys want me to continue? Is anyone still there? Continue. Okay, I'll just continue. Well, Kim is not. It's not my choice. They want me to continue, right? You have to trust in the chat, right? Put your trust in chat. Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, so what print and input is functions. Well, you can think of functions as something that is provided by the language, which is it's like a machine, right? A machine can do things, right? For example, an oven here. Look, this is a very beautiful and new oven. Wow. Okay, that's so excellent. You went buy an oven like this. Okay. For an oven, right? You can give it cake mix, which is this, and if you give it, it will give you back cake, right? So it's essentially like a machine, right? You can give it things, and it will do things for you, and perhaps even give you something back. So for machine that does things, some machines, they don't need to receive anything to work, right? For example, a stopwatch. You just start it, and then you stop it, it will give you the number of time that has passed. You don't give it anything to work on, and it will only give you the time, right? So the point is, a function, you can think of it as a machine. It can have things to given it to work on. It can also not have anything given to it. It's a machine that does stuff, right? The function, you can think of it as a machine that does stuff, right? So what does this function typically look like, right? How do you know that this thing is a function? Okay, a function typically consists of the name of the function. Here we can know it is print, and the opening and close brackets. Here is where we would put things we want to give to the function. You can give it something, or if you don't want to give it anything, just, well, not put anything, right? As you can see here, we're not giving it anything, right? So these brackets allow us to give things to the function. So for example, in the code just now, right, we give what is your name to the function print. So this print, okay, I received this thing, then it wants me to print it on the screen, right? So it prints, it is good. What is your name? And then it prints, it is good to see you, Kim. Now let's take a guess. What does this input do, right? Remember that I typed something in here, right? So, and the name itself also gives you a hint, right? So what input does is it gets an input from the user, which is me, right? Its sole job is to get the input from the user, right? You can actually know it from seeing the name here, okay? So that is the input machine, okay? So let's do some. Oh, okay, I'm not supposed to. I'm actually I've done the demo. Okay, that is quite awkward. Okay, so let's get into some exercises or some questions you can try out by yourselves. Okay. How about I give you guys 10 minutes to work on the questions first. You can try it. It actually uses what we have learned up to this point. If you guys don't want to try it, just think about it. Like, how am I going to do this? Like maybe like this, and I'll try to explain it later how I will go about it. Okay? So I'm just gonna mute myself to prevent myself from being annoying. And I'll see you guys in 10 minutes, right? Okay, so you guys can try the questions here first. Okay, yes, right. I've seen a thank you guys. Thank you for the uh, participation in the chat, right? So I've seen here someone has asked to teach how to print an integer variable and a string variable on the same output line. Okay, so the problem with the print function, all right, this machine is that it can only receive words, right? It cannot receive numbers, right? So what you have to do essentially is convert the number into a string, right? So is there a machine that can help us do that? Well, yes, right. There actually is. There is a machine called int, which receives an integer and it converts it into a string, or if you like, a word for you, right? For example, let's say we have bacon equals 42, right? Let's say you want to print bacon out, bacon, and 42 is the answer to everything. Is it 42? I remember from the movie it's 42, right? So if you click run, you see, all right, it drops out an error. It's a type error. This is because you want to print an integer with a string. So what you would do is we would use another machine called int, this machine, okay? So we give it bacon. It will help us, oh, sorry, not int, sorry, str, right? It will help us to convert this integer or a number into a string, then it gives us back the string, so we can print it out. So if you try this, okay, let it run for a second. It will print it out, right? Because this str function essentially allows us to give it an integer, and then it will convert it into a word, right? Another similar one is int, which does the opposite thing, okay? So let's say, okay, you want to get a number from the user. Okay, the problem with this input is it treats everything that the user types in as a string or as a word. So if you want to do, for example, addition with it, right? Let's say you want to get from the user first, right? We get the input from the user, then we store it in a box called bacon. So let's say you want to do addition to it, right? Bacon plus 4, right? Bacon equals bacon plus 4. Then you want to print out bacon, right? Let's say you want to print it out, okay? So if we run this, okay, it's waiting for us to type a number. Let's say we type 56, right? Yeah, it can, see, it can only contain as right? So just ignore this first. So I'll tell you what's happening. This 56 is what you entered is being treated as a word, right? So if you would want to change it into a number, you would have to use the what's it called? The machine called int. So what int does is it takes a word, then it converts it to a string, right? It's mostly used in input functions like this, where the input is a word. But for example, if you get from the user is a number, you want to convert it to an integer that you can use, right? So you use this integer to tell that, okay, although what the user gave me is a word, I want to convert it into an integer, right? So then I can use it. So if you try this, it should work. Yeah, it should work, right? Because it treats it as a number now. You plus 4 to it, then you print it up, okay? So these are the two machines that you can use, for example, to print integers or words on the screen. Well, receive from the user. Anyway, I'm just out. Okay, I'm just going to stop now. Yeah, right. Sorry, my ears hurt because I'm wearing earphones. So one of you, I think, asked that can I get a user to input on the same line as the output? Can you guys hear me? I think I'm muted, right? Yeah, I'm muted. Okay. So, okay, let's get into something very important in programming, right? So let's say you don't know how to print something on the same line, right? So as I said, a very important thing in programming is learning how to Google, right? So let's say you don't know how to print something in Python. Okay, let's say just Google. Okay, how to, okay, let's say print something in Python on the same line. Okay. Okay, it will give you the answer. If you want to print your text in the same line, you should use a comma at the end of your print statement. Here's an example. Okay. Okay, let's say you don't want to follow this. You can do it one by one. Okay. This is a very useful thing, right? Okay, let's go through it. Okay. Okay, this is what I would use. For example, you can try each of them one by one. So I would use this one. Okay, so the print function, let's say, prints without a new line. Okay, oh, it says we can give another something to the print function, right? It's called n equals this one, right? So let's try it. Okay, now we don't know if it will work, right? We don't know if it will work, right? So let's try it. Okay, let's say I print. This is a test, right? So normally I would do this is a test 2, right? So let's just try, okay? We don't know if it will work. We don't know if it will work, right? Just let's try it, okay? So the solution just now that we found is, okay, it asked us to add something to the print function, right? This is normally what we will print, and this is what they asked us to add, right? So let's just try it. Normally, if we do this, right, we will have 2 lines. So let's try it. N equals this thing. Okay, so run. See? Okay, now it prints everything on the same line. Let's say you want a space, it's right. Okay, so we get a space. So the important thing here is if you encounter a problem, you're not alone, right? Probably somewhere in the world, someone has encountered this problem before. So the best way to get help after this workshop is actually just learning how to Google and find your answers. Right? There are a lot of people, especially Stack Overflow. It will become a meme once you get deeper. Stack Overflow, right? This is a very useful website. Most of your answers you will get from here. There are a lot of people that will help. Just ignore their way of speaking because they're kind of rude. Sometimes just take what they teach you. So do you guys want me to talk about these questions or can we continue? If you guys like me to continue, just type continue. If you guys want me to talk about these questions, then I don't know, type Kim in the chat. Or I don't know, type something other than continue in the chat. Yeah, I know Stack Overflow. So do you guys want me to continue? I'm just gonna wait for another 10 seconds. If you guys don't want me to talk about this, I'll just continue with the workshop. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, I'll just continue with the workshop then. Okay. So now that we can print something on the screen, right? We can even we can print stuff and we can receive input from the user, right? So as much as that is interesting, as much as printing something is interesting, right? We would think of computers as something that helps us to make a decision, right? So computers can actually do that, but it uses a more simple way of making decision. So if you want to make it complicated, it's up to you. It's up to literally it's up to you to make it complicated, right? Because the building blocks of the computer is the way it makes decision is actually quite easy. It's called if and else, right? So how you can think of if and else is the computer uses one action. It has two actions defined for it, right? One action is for if the condition is true, and one action is for the condition is false, right? Let's say, for example, if it is raining, I'm not going to go outside. If it's not raining, I'm going to go outside, right? So the action here is, for example, if it is raining, this is the condition. If it's true, then I'm not going to go outside. If it's false, then I'm going to go outside, right? This is how the computer usually makes its decision. One action for true and one action for false, okay? So this condition thing, right? For us, it's quite easy, right? So we will see, for example, if I tell you if it is raining, you will know that, okay, I'll just go and see if it's raining or not, right? But computers don't have this much of this broad of a definition for true and false values, right? So it can only do true and false values from comparing things, right? And see if the comparison is correct. For example, if I say, okay, this is the sign for equals to, right? We use two equal signs as equal to because one equal sign is usually used for assignment, or in other words, creating a box. Just now, as we said, creating the box, right? So we use two equal signs to compare if two things are equal. So is this red apple equals to this green apple? Well, obviously not, right? So this comparison is false, right? So here are a few more operators that we can use. The first one is equal to, which is represented by two equal signs. The second one is not equal to, which is represented by an exclamation mark and equal. In Python, at least. Less than is represented by this sign. How you can remember this is where it's pointing at, right, is smaller. So the less thing would be here. So it would be less than, greater than is this thing just flipped. Less than or equal to is basically just less than and then an equal sign. Less than or equal to. Greater than or equal to is the greater sign and then equal to. Now note that larger than, smaller than, larger or equal to, smaller or equal to operators can only work with float values, right? Float and integer values, which means the first two we can compare it with string values, but the bottom four we can only use it with integer and float values. Okay. So let's get into the demo. Right. Right. So in contrast to normally true and false conditions, which in normal life, right, we have to compare something to have a true and false condition, right? For example, we have to ask, is this thing still eatable? True, it is eatable. False, it is not eatable, right? But in programming, true and false values are data types, so we can actually assign them to a variable. Okay, so let's get into an example. Okay, let's say I will have a box called spam equals true, right? If I see what's inside spam, it's true. But notice that there's no quotes for true because this is a data type, right? It's a Boolean data type. Just now, remember, we have stated earlier, the Boolean data type can only hold true or false values. So we can change this. For example, spam equals to false. Right now, if we see spam, it is false. Okay, so true and false values, they are data types, but they can also come from doing comparisons. For example, just now, let's use some of the comparison operators we have learned just now, right? 42 is equal to 42. Remember, this sign is known as the equal to sign. It is not this sign. Okay, if we do this one, we're essentially creating a box named 42 and storing 42 in it, right? But the problem is you can't write numbers as the name of the box, right? So if you want to compare things, remember comparison, if we want to compare if two things are equal, we use two equal signs, okay? So in this case, we're saying 42 is equal to 42. Is that correct? True, it is correct, right? So we can even compare it with float values, right? 42 is equal to 42.000000000. right? That is a float value. Okay, remember float values are decimal points. Just as long as there's a decimal point, it's a float value. Okay, so we can do this because the computer treats these two things as similar, right? Because you can do addition, you can do subtraction, you can do mathematical operations with them. But let's say, for example, if we do 42 is equals to 42, right? Wrapped in single quotes. To the computer, these two things are not the same because you're comparing a number with a word. So obviously you're going to get false. They are not the same thing, right? So let's look at some other operators. Let's say we want to compare if the numbers are larger, right? Let's say 42 is larger than 52. Is this true? No, it's not true, so we get false, right? So you get true and false values from comparing things, okay? This is the essence of, and based on these true and false values, we can make decisions, right? So some other examples for comparison, you can see in the handbook. We've also included some other examples. For example, I'll go to them one by one for now. Cat is equals to cat. Now, I would like you to guess, will this return true or false, right? So if you stop and think about it, these two look similar, but they are not. What's the difference? The difference is there's a capital letter for the first one, right? So this makes both of the things not the same, right? But if they are completely the same, then you will get a true value, okay? Let's say you want to compare, okay, let's say I say, okay, cat is not equal to cat, right? Is this true or false, right? Cat is not equal to cat. You will get, yeah, this is true, right? So we can even use comparison operators with true and false values, right? So if we say true is equals to true, is this true? Well, yes, it is true, right? Because these two are the same things, okay? So the bottom line is comparison operators allows us to compare two things, including even variables, okay? Let's say I have a variable, which are boxes, remember boxes equals to 42, right? I want to find out if this thing is bigger than 6, right? Let's say variable is bigger than 6. Is this true? Oh, well, okay, in this case it's 5. Is this true? Well, yes, you will get true, okay? You can even compare variables with variables, right? Let's say I have another variable called other variable, right? Equals to, I don't know, 100, okay? Okay, let's say I want to find out, okay, is this variable equal to this other variable? Okay, equal to, it has been used too much times. Is this variable less than or equal to this other variable? Well, is it less than or equal to this other variable? Oh, yes, right. So you get true. So comparison operators can be used with anything. Not equal to and equal to can be used with anything, including words. But remember, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, can only be used with numbers. Okay? Okay. So that's all for our Boolean part. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go back to our if statement. The most common type of decision making in programming is the if statement, right? So the code inside the if statement will be executed when the condition is true and skip when the condition is false. As you remember, one action for true and one action for false. So how you can think of it in English is, if this condition is true, execute the code in the clause or execute the code below. Okay, so let's see if I have a demo here. Okay, if condition is true, do something, right? So this is an example. If name is equal to bacon, print you look yummy. Okay, so let's give another demo. Right, I'll just refresh this page to make it cleaner. Okay. Let's say we have something called name is equals to bacon, right? Okay, let's say you want to check if this thing is a bacon. If it is a bacon, I'm going to eat it. Okay, so let's say if name is equals to bacon, if this thing is a bacon, right, then I'm going to eat you. Sorry. Okay, so if we run this, it's going to print I'm going to eat you, right? Because the name here is equal to bacon. Now I would like to go back to the slides just now. I missed something. Okay, so what constitutes an if statement? What is it made of? Right? So first, it's made out of the if word, as you can see here, a condition that we need to check, and a colon. This colon is important to tell the computer that, okay, our conditions, we have finished declaring our conditions, and the code below. Okay, now notice that our code is actually indented. So what does indentation mean? Indentation means just leaving a space here, usually using tab, the tab key, to make your code, well, most programmers use it to look cleaner. But in Python, indentation is extremely important, right? So why is that? I'll demonstrate it using something called VS Code. All right, it is just a normal text editor. You can actually edit text in here. Oh well, look, I have already prepared it. Okay, so let's say I give you this code, right? Okay, if I give you this code, right, the first thing you will see, okay, if name is equal to bacon, okay, then execute things, right? So now let me ask you a question. How much do we need to execute if name is equal to bacon? Do we print this and get the input from the user and then check again? Or do we do it until here, if name is equal to bacon, and then this is the normal continue for, right? So let's say your name is not equal to bacon, right? Name is equal to x, right? Right, okay. Let's say your name is equal to x. Well, you will obviously skip this, right, because it's false. But which code will you skip? Do you know? You don't, right? Because everything is just clumped together in the same line. But if I do this, right, well, even to the text editor, it knows, well, this code must be executed if this thing evaluates to true, right? So even the text editor knows, right? If I close this, see, it knows that this code belongs in here. If I indent this, then it knows, oh, this code belongs in here. If I indent this even more, it knows that this code belongs in here, right? The thing is, the indentation in Python tells us which code to execute for an if statement, okay? So if I indent this and then indent it further, right? So this code now belongs in this if statement. And this if statement belongs in the previous if statement, right? So it's kind of confusing. Just remember that indentation allows us to classify codes and bundle them, okay? They help us to how do I say? Pack them into small little bags, right? So if you imagine this is a bag, then this would be the things that are packed into this bag, okay? So that is all. I'll get back to the slides first. Okay. So that is for the if statement, right? So let's get into a demo. Okay. Right. Let's say I want to do a program that gets something from the user, right? Let's say I want to get the name. If their name is, let's say, Alice, I don't know. I want to print out you look beautiful. Okay, let's say I want to make a program like this. Okay, so first I would get an input from the user, right? Name is equals to input, right? Then I want to see if, hey, if their name is Alice, I'll print out if they are beautiful, right? If name is equals to Alice, right? Right. Okay, I'll print out you look YouTube. Then after I print it up, I will say have a nice day. Yeah, quite boring, I know. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, let's say I type in my name is Kim, right? It just prints have a nice day. Because this thing evaluates to false, so this code is not executed. But if I print, okay, let's say if I type in my name is Alice, it will print, oh, you look beautiful, have a nice day. So the basic thing is the if statement allows us to execute code inside the if statement if the condition evaluates to true. Okay? Right. Now, I'm just going to demo something else, the indentation, right? So let's say I want to print something here, right? Blah, 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 blah. I only want, why indentation is important, right? If I want to print something here, okay, only if this thing evaluates to true. If I have an indentation here, I will only print it if it is true, right? So if I put in Kim, it will be false and this will not print. But let's see what happens if I don't have an indentation here, right? If I type Kim, it will still print, right? This is because Python treats indentation as the classification, the thing it uses to classify code or wrap codes together. So by doing this, by not indenting, you're telling Python that, okay, this code does not belong in the if statement. Okay, so regardless if this thing is true, just print this up. Okay, so that's basically why indentation is important. Right. Okay, that is all for the if statement. Now, we know that we can do the if statement allows us to do something if it's true and then skip it if it's false. Now, what if we want to do two things, one for true and one for false, right? We have the else statement. Okay, the basic concept is if something is true, do this, or else do something else, right? Something that you define. If this condition is true, execute this code, or else execute that code. Okay, the syntax looks like this. If a condition is true and followed by a colon, do a code, do something, or else followed by a colon, do something else, right? Okay, for example, name is equal to veggie. If name is equals to bacon, print you look yummy, or else print yeah, I can't eat you. Okay, so let's get into the demo. For instance, let's modify this code. Okay, let's not start from scratch. Okay, if your name is Alice, I'll print you look beautiful, or else, right, I'll print let's say I don't know you, right, because I already know the person Alice, let's say. Okay, so I'll print nice to meet you, can we be friends? Lonely attempt, I know. Okay, so let's see what happens, right? If I type in Alice, then it says you look beautiful. Okay, I'll just delete this blah blah blah. Right? It prints you look beautiful. Okay, if I type in Kim, let's see what happens. Nice to meet you. Can we be friends? Right? So what basically is done here is if this thing evaluates to false, it will execute the else statement. If this thing evaluates to true, it will execute the print statement. This thing, right? Okay, that is basically for if and else. So now you might think that, okay, what if I want to check multiple conditions, right? So maybe, let's say maybe if this thing is false, I know that it will execute this no matter what, right? If this thing is false. So maybe I can do, I don't know, I can check something else here. If name is equals to Wei Jun, let's say, I will print tomorrow's your birthday, right? Let's say, okay, I don't actually know when is his birthday, but actually I do. Okay, so let's say it will print tomorrow is your birthday. Okay, let's say I do this. So using this, okay, for example, if I type my name is Wei Jun, right? Okay, this thing evaluates to false, then after it's evaluated to false, it will execute this else statement. Then when it arrives in this else statement, it will check if the name is equals to Wei Jun. If it is, then I'll print this. Okay, so this allows us to check multiple conditions, right? But as you can see, it's very long, right? It's very, very long. You have to put an if and an else. You have to indent it. Like if you want to check more than one condition, right? If you want to check more than one condition back to back, you will have to do like else, right? And then another if, okay, blah, right? Something, right? It quickly becomes like there's a lot of indentations here. So is there a way for us to check multiple conditions that are not related and then execute things based on them, right? So actually there is. Well, you guys should have seen that coming. Okay, so the thing that Python's provide us is the elif statement. So it's basically a combination of else and if statements. It is used after an if statement to check other conditions, right? So if the first statement is false, it will check the second condition. If the second condition is false, you can use another elif statement to check the third condition, right? So for example, if it is raining, if it is raining, I'm not going to go outside. If it is not raining, then maybe I'll go check something else. Let's say if is the basketball court open? If it is open, maybe I'll go. If it's not, I'll not go, right? Check multiple conditions, right? So the elif statement basically allows us to put multiple conditions in the same line, as you can see here, right? So if a condition is true, execute this. If it is false, it will check the second condition using the elif clause, okay? So the syntax is basically the same. The only thing is you have to change if into elif, and it must come after an if, right? So for example, if age is bigger than 8, print you are over 8 years old. If this thing evaluates to false, check if your age is bigger than 5, print you are over 5 but less than 8. If these two are false, there's a default thing which can use is else. Print you are still too young to go on any ride. Well, remember in Genting Highlands or like any theme park, there's an age limit. Yeah, they use this code to determine it. Okay, so let's say, well, actually it's 2 days from now. Okay, so let's say I want to clean up this code, right? I want to check, after I check your name is Alice, I want to check if your name is Wei Jun. Okay, so I can do if name is equals to Alice, print you look beautiful. Else, if your name is equals to Wei Jun, print tomorrow. Oh, well, your birthday is 2 days from now. Right? Okay, let's say I want to check another condition, right? Else, if your name is equals to Kim, right? I don't know. What do you guys want to tell Kim? Print. Wow. Okay. I literally don't know what to type. Okay. So if we run this, you'll see that it checks one by one, right? So if my name is Alice, it prints you look beautiful, have a nice day. If my name is Kim, the first two will evaluate to false, so it will print wow. So if I type Wei Jun, right, it will print your birthday is 2 days from now. Have a nice day, right? So the important thing to know with elif statements is even if one of them is true, it will not continue to evaluate the other elif statements. What does that mean? Okay, let's go back to the age example I've shown in the slides just now, right? Let's say age is equal to 10. Okay, if age is more than 8, you are over 8 years old. Okay, so else if age is more than 5, you are over 5 years old, right? Else if age is more than 3, print. Now I'm just gonna do a default statement, right? 5 is a very low age. Else print, sorry, you are too young. Now, let's say this is your code. Now, let's say you want to check if the person is over 20 years old, right? If you put the elif statement here, over 20 years old, let's see if it works, okay? You are over 20 years old, okay? Let's see if it works. If I put the age over 20, I put 30, okay? And I click run, you'll see that the first one gets printed instead. Why is this? This is because the first statement evaluates to true, so the bottom ones, all of them are skipped. So remember, for elif and if statements, if even one of these conditions are true, the rest of them will be ignored. Okay, so what do we do to fix this? So easy, we just move this upwards and then move this downwards, right? So it will check if it is over 20 first. If it is, it will print this, then it will check if it's over 8. So we run this, you are over 20 years old. Okay, so remember the order in which you check using the if statement is very, very, very important. Okay, right. That is for the if statement and the elif statement. Now, we've learned to check a condition. We've learned to check. We learn to tell the computer to do things if something is true and something is false. We've also learned to tell the computer to check other conditions if the first condition is true or if the first condition is false, right? Using the elif statement. Now, what if we want to check two conditions at once, right? For example, if there's someone harassing you and I tell you, if it's daytime and if you hear my voice, then open the door, right? So obviously, you'll know that if it's nighttime and you hear my voice, you're not going to open the door, right? Because I specifically told you, if it is daytime and if you hear my voice, open the door. So even if one of these conditions is false, you will not open the door, correct? So Python also has something similar. It is called the AND keyword. So if we go back to what I said just now, if it's daytime and you hear my voice, open the door. Basically, only if these two things are true, you will open the door, right? If even one of these is false, either if it is nighttime or either if it isn't my voice, you will not open the door. So the AND keyword basically allows us to check if both of these conditions evaluate to true. And if these two conditions evaluate to true, it will only evaluate to true itself, right? So how you use it is if a certain condition and another second condition is true, it will perform things. The syntax is like this. If the first condition and the second condition followed by a colon, you will put code in here, right? Okay. For example, if your name is equal to Alice and your age is equal to 14, print you are my friend Alice that I met yesterday. Okay. So even if one of these conditions is false, then the statement will not print, right? If your name is not equal to Alice, but you're 14 years old, that doesn't make you the Alice I met yesterday, right? So if your name is Alice, but your age is not 14, you are also not the friend I met yesterday, right? Because your age is not correct. So this is basically how the AND keyword works. All right. So to give a demo. Okay. I'll use the example just now, so you guys can follow at home if you want. So name is equals to Alice. If your name is equals to Alice and your age is equals to 14, print you are my friend Alice that I met yesterday. Okay, so what it basically does is it evaluates both of them. So I'll run this first. Oh, so remember this is 2. Okay. Okay. So even if one of these is false, let's say the age is 15, right? Okay, it will not execute. Okay, to see this easier, I'll put an else statement here. Right, so print you are not Alice. You're not the friend I met yesterday. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So we see that one of these conditions is false, right? The age is 15. So it will print you are not the friend that I met yesterday. So the end statement, remember, it basically only evaluates to true if both of these conditions are true. Okay, this is the end statement. Now, can we do something if even one of these conditions is true? Well, yes, we can use the OR keyword, right? So what the OR keyword does is if I tell you, okay, open the door if it is daytime or if you hear my voice, right? So if it is daytime, but someone else comes knocking, because I told you to open the door if it is daytime or if you heard the voice, then you will open it, right? But so if it is nighttime and you hear my voice, right? Since I told you that to open the door only if it is daytime or if you hear my voice, you would open the door. The OR keyword basically is evaluate to true, even if one. Okay, nice. Let's take the time to process first. Okay, so the OR keyword comes between two conditions. Condition 1 and condition 2. Condition 2, it basically checks both of these conditions and then performs the code. So, for example, if this session is finished, or if I'm feeling tired, which I guess most of you are now, yeah, I know it's kind of boring. Okay, it will print I will go to sleep. Now, so from the code above, you see that if the class is finished, but I'm not feeling tired, I will still go to sleep because class is finished. It's true, right? Or if I'm feeling tired, but the class is not finished, I will also go to sleep because feeling is tired. It's true. Remember, the OR keyword basically allows us to execute code even if one of these statements is true. Okay? Okay. So let's see a demo. I'll use this one again. Right. I'll use the OR statement. Okay, if I use the OR statement, yeah, it doesn't make sense in English, I know, but bear with me here. We use this as an example only. So we know that one of these is true, right? The name is equals to Alice, but this one is a false. But if we use the OR statement, we see, remember the OR statement will evaluate to true if even one of them is true. So if I run this, you'll see that you are my friend Alice that I met yesterday because one of these is true, right? If both of these are false, right, your name now is Alice Tree. If both of these are false, then only it will evaluate to false. Okay, so the OR statement basically allows us to execute code if even one of these statements is true. Well, you can treat of it as English, right? If I tell you and, then you basically know that these two things have to be true if I want to do something. If I tell you or, then you know that even if one of this is true, then you will do something. Just treat it. The good thing about Python is that you don't really need to understand how these things work. It is more like plain English, right? Even this, like maybe this is a bit difficult, but you will see or and like we usually use this in English. There's an advantage of Python is that it's very user friendly and very beginner friendly. Okay. So another thing, the final thing here is the not keyword, right? So let's say you want to check, you don't want to check if I'm feeling tired. You want to check if I'm not feeling tired. Well, just use the keyword not, right? It's self-explaining, not if you're not feeling tired, right? This code is basically self-explanatory. If you're not feeling tired, print I will continue to watch YouTube. Well, I usually watch YouTube even though I'm kind of tired, so yeah. A good thing about Python is I have said you don't really have to understand how Boolean expressions work, but by looking at the code, you understand what it is trying to say, right? If I'm not feeling tired, then print I will continue to watch YouTube. So do you guys want me to demo this? Yeah, I'm just gonna demo this. Last demo, okay? Last demo before I give you guys a break. If my name is not Alice, remember you have to put the not at the front. Yeah, it's weird. Python. Yeah, programming is weird. You have to put the not in the front. But if you look at this, you kind of know what it's talking about. If your name is not Alice, then print you are my friend Alice. Then I'm like, yes, dear. Well, this doesn't make sense, right? You are not the friend that okay, I have one word to like basically explain what I'm feeling. Imposter. Okay. This basically explains what I'm talking about. You are Alice, right? If your name is not Alice, print imposter, else you are Alice, okay? So we see that the name here is not Alice, so it should print imposter for us, right? So the not keyword basically allows us to specify conditions for if this thing is false, okay? So yeah, if you look at this, you basically know what it's trying to talk about. It's kind of self-explanatory, okay? So below are the truth tables for you to understand how AND and OR works. It's also included in the handbook. Most of the code that I've executed today is included in the handbook. You can refer to that there if you want. So here are some exercises. You guys can try them. And yeah, I'll meet you guys in 10 minutes. If you guys have any questions, just throw them in the chat. I'll try to explain them. If there's anything you guys don't understand from my explanation just now, or you feel like I'm too quick, you guys can also, well, just say in the chat. Okay, I've seen someone in the chat that says no idea. Okay, let's try the question C first. Okay, okay. I'll dem I'll try to speak about how I go about to solve these problems, right? So, for example, if I see a question, for example, question C, right? I'll see it by one. So let the user input a number. So, okay, so I know that the first thing is I want to get an input from the user, right? So is there anything that I can use to get an input from the user? So as you have remembered, there is a function called input, right? So I know that I need to use a function, right, called, I'll just go to, okay, I'll just go here. Okay, let's break it down, okay? I know that I need to use an input function, right? Okay, now an input function is able to get something from the user, but okay, I need to store it somewhere, right? Okay, so let's say I want to create something to store it. So let's say I create a box, right, to store the input. Okay, so the first condition, the first sentence is already complete. Let the user input a number, right? I can get an input from the user, right? So no, I'm not the imposter. So okay, if the number is less than 0 or more than 100, okay, there's an if statement here, right? If the number is less than 0 or more than 100, right? So I know that, okay, I need to check something, right? And I need to use an if statement, okay? So I need an if statement, and the first condition is if the number is less than 0, right? So where do we store the number? We store the number in box, right? So if, let's say, in box is less than 0, okay, that's the first condition, correct? It's less than 0. Then it says or more than 100. Okay, now I think it's checking two conditions at a time, right? So is there anything that I can use to check two conditions at a time? And it is, well, the question actually gave us the answer. It is or, right? So remember that the or function allows us to check two conditions, and if one of them is true, it will print, well, do the code inside, right? The question actually told us that, oh, it wants an or function, right? If it is less than 0 or more than 100, let's just do something. Just ignore this first. Well, I know I need to check two conditions. If it is less than 0 or more than 100, right? So I'll just check if box is less than 0 or box is more than 100. Okay, I know I need to check two conditions, right? Okay, that's all, fine and dandy. So what do I do if box is less than 0 or more than 100? So the question says, print none shall pass. Okay, so let's print none shall pass. Print none shall pass. Okay, so does it want to specify to do something otherwise? Well, okay, it says otherwise print you shall pass, right? So is there a way to do something if the condition is false? Well, yeah, I remember that there is an else function, right? Remember, the else function allows us to do something if the condition is false, right? If condition is true, or else perform something, right? So if I go back here, okay, I know I need to use an else function, right? What do I want in this else function? Okay, it wants me to, okay, let's see what it wants me to do. It wants me to, if I can get there, print you shall pass. Okay, so I'll print you shall pass, right? Print you shall pass. Okay, so if you don't know it works or not, okay, let's try it. Okay, let's try it. Okay, I don't know if it works. Okay, if I click run, okay, it's waiting for me to give an input. Let's say I've typed 5. Oh, okay, a bunch of red words come out. Okay, so let's look at it. Trace back. Okay, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means. Okay, what looks familiar? Okay, this thing looks familiar, right? This thing is in our code, right? This is what we type. Okay, this thing looks familiar. It says type error. Okay, this thing is not supported between instances of str and int. So what is str and what is int? So str and int, right? str is the short form for string, which is the word, and int is short for integer, which is a number. Wait, did we compare a word with a number? Let's see. We did a comparison here, correct? So there's a number here, right? So the other logical thing is this should be a word. So if this is a word, then this input function should be a word, right? So is there a way to convert this input into a number? Well, yes, there's a function that we have talked about, which is int. It converts the input into a number, right? So let's try it. Okay, let's assume you don't know how to solve this. Just copy this, Control C. Okay, that's a keyboard interrupt, sorry. Copy this, paste it in Google, and let's say, oh, error in Python. It even helps us to autocomplete, right? Okay, let's see. Stack Overflow. Okay, I remember this from the workshop. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, seems like someone is getting the same error as me. Okay, let's see if anyone answers. Change input to int, right? See, it puts an int in front. Okay, maybe I can use it, right? I don't know. Okay, let's try it. So I put an integer in front. Okay, let's try running it one more time. Okay, it's waiting me for an input. I type maybe 56. Oh, okay, it prints you shall pass. So if I type something that's lower than 1, -1, for example, it type, okay, none shall pass. So if I type more than 100, 105, it type none shall pass. So does it fulfill the question? The question asks us if the number is less than 0 or more than 100, print none shall pass. Okay. So yes, this question is complete. I've done this question. Okay. So this is basically how I usually break down a question, right? So in programming, we usually have questions like this, where it seems very complicated, but if you read one by one and try to break it down, it's actually not, right? So let's do another example, okay? Let's go through the question B, okay? Let the user input 3 integers. Okay, I know that the code wants us to input 3 integers, right? My mic is on, right? I'm not speaking to myself, right? Okay, I'm going crazy. Never mind. It wants the user to input 3 integers, right? Okay, so if I want 3 inputs, then let's put 3 inputs. Okay, I know I need to use 1 input, right? 2 inputs, and 3 inputs, right? So, can I store this input somewhere? Okay, let's store it somewhere. Let's say number 1. Number 1 equals input. Okay, then number 2 equals input. Then number 3 equals input. Okay, I have 3 things. The question asks us to input 3 integers. Okay, I have somewhere to store the 3 integers. Then I remember, the input function only accepts the word, right? So learning from what I have done, the error in the last code, I have to put an integer here, right? So it can change into an integer. So let's do the int for all 3 of them first. Okay, now I know that this works. Okay, let's move on to the next requirement. Print out the maximum number and the minimum number without the max and min function. Okay, I don't know what this is, the max and min function. I've never seen this before. Okay, now it asks me to print out the maximum number and the minimum number. So it's obvious that I want to print the biggest among 3 numbers, right? So how do I print the biggest among 3 numbers? So if I have 3, I know the computer can only compare 2 things at a time, right? So if in real life I have 3 numbers, how do I find the greatest among them? Well, I can try comparing 2 numbers first, and then get the bigger one, then compare it with the third, right? So okay, let's try that. I don't know if it works, right? Okay, let's try that. Let's say I compare number 1 and number 2 first. If number 1 is bigger, then I print number 1 is the biggest, or else I print number 3 is the biggest, right? Okay, let's say that's my first thought. Okay, let's say number 1, I compare with number 2 first. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, right? Okay, I know that number 1 now is bigger than number 2, so I'll compare it with number 3 now. Okay, if number 1 is bigger than number 3, okay, then I know not. If I compare with these two numbers, then I know, okay, number 1 must be the biggest number. So let me print out number 1. Okay. Now, if this thing is false, right? If number 1 is not bigger than number 3, then I have no idea if number 3 is the biggest, right? So maybe I can compare it with number 2. Else, if number 3 is bigger than number 2, right? I know that number 3, if this is false, then number 3 must be bigger than number 1. So I only need to compare with number 2 now. If number 3 is bigger than number 2, I can print number 3, right? Because number 3 is the biggest number. Okay, so now I have a way to determine if number 3 is the biggest, and I have a way to determine if number 1 is the biggest. So do I have a way to determine if number 2 is the biggest? Let's see. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, so what if this is false, right? It means that number 2 is bigger than number 1, correct? Okay, let's say this is the preliminary estimates, right? If number 2 is bigger than number 1, then I only need to compare it with number 3 now, right? If number 2 is bigger than number 3, okay, then I'll say, okay, now I know that number 2 is bigger than number 3. So I just need to print out number 2. Okay, since I know that is the biggest number. So the best thing to try to see if your code works or if it is correct is to try it, right? So let's try it. Let's see, I put 2, 3, and 4. Okay, does it print anything? No. Why? Okay. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, is it bigger than number 2? No. Then if number 2 is bigger than number 3? No. Okay. Oh, after this is wrong, nothing happens, right? So, okay, if number 2 is bigger than number 3, then we have to check if number 3 is bigger than number 1, right? Okay, let's try it. If number 3 is bigger than number 1, print number 3, right? Okay, I don't know if this works. Okay, so let's try it. Let's see if our logic here is correct. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, print, then we check number 1 and number 3, right? Else, if number 1 is not bigger than number 3, then you check number 3 and number 2. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. Like, you can use code to try and, well, break up the problem. Like, I don't know if it works. So let's run it first. Okay, I don't know if it works. 3, so like 2, 3, 4. Okay, it prints out 4. So if number 3 is the biggest, it works. Okay, let's try if number 2 is biggest. I don't know if it works. Okay, so 2, 4, 3. Okay, it works again. Let's try if number 1 is the biggest, right? 4, 3, 2. Okay, it works. So your code works, right? Is this elegant? No, this is not elegant. Is there a better way to do this? Yes. But does it work? Yes, it works. Okay? So if we use this to find the maximum number, can we use it to find the minimum number? Oh yes, just flip everything, right? So we have the answer for question 2. Is it correct? Yes. Is it elegant? No. Okay? So basically what programming is you have to break down the question and then try to solve it. You can either do it more hands-on which is just do it and then see if it works. Or you can try to think of a solution and then do it, right? So what I demonstrated just now is I've essentially brute force everything. Like, okay, I'll just check number 1, number 2, and then check number 2, number 3, and then check number 3, number 2, number 1. Just compare each and every one of them, right? So, is this elegant? No. Does this work? Yes. And sometimes in computer programming, you have to remember, if it works, then it is enough. Okay? So I think the time does not allow us to continue.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'll just stop at here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave in the chat. Kim will take over from me now.
Yeah, ZiXi, can you continue the share screen? I would like to.
Yeah,
follow.
okay. I will.
Yeah.
I know what you're
Okay,
going to tell me.
so yeah, so guys, due to the short
Yes.
of time, we can't actually cover everything today. So we do have a feedback form for you guys. So I will send it in the link. Wait for a while, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So like Guang Pei just send the link. We'd like to wish to get your feedback about this workshop. So after your feedback, we can maybe make it better next time. Yeah. So I want you to be honest. What do you think about that? Any suggestion? You just leave in the feedback form below. So so please everyone go to fill this form. Yeah. Okay. So this basically that's all today, since 2 hours are we can't cover everything, and we wish that we cover everything in a very detailed way so that everyone have a good concept about what is programming. And also and besides, we are also here to thank ZiXi, Daniel. Yeah, he prepared this Python Beginner 101 class for quite some time, and also we do a lot of changes, especially last night. We also do a lot of changes, tweaking on the content, and also thanks to Lai Guangpei, which is Mike, and also the whole team for contributing in this Python 101 workshop. I wish that you learn a lot throughout this workshop, so you can get a better image of programming. And besides, I would like to promote our next club activity. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so we are introducing an event, a sharing event called XShare. So basically, it's like a sharing events which we let students or students or staff or lecturers or anyone who like to share anything, tech related, a little bit tech related, anything, to share anything about the tech through this event. So let me next slide. Yeah. Yeah, so this is basically our aim, to provide a platform for students and staff who are interested in share their ideas and also knowledge to peoples. Yeah, so we really wish you guys, if anyone wish to be a speaker for this coming XTech XShare event, we will have a QR code for you to scan. So we will promote you so that you can share anything maybe anything you are recently going into, or anything you are interested, you are studying, or anything you wish that people can know about tech. It may be very technical, not technical, maybe how to use the software, it maybe some tools you are using. Yeah, so it's, we are open for any topic here. So the first session will be on the next slide. Yeah, the first session will be on next Friday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we will have two topics for there are two speakers. They will be discussing about introduction to Google technologies, which introduction to all the Google technologies for developers or for using and all, and also how to game development, the starting line. So it's the very basic things here we will be discussing. Yeah, it's a very chill session. We're just discussing things, asking any question and connecting like that. Yeah. So next slide, which is the last one. Yeah, if you have any ideas, anything you want to speak about, talk about, anything you recently found out, anything you're using with tech writer, you can just sign up as a speaker. Yeah, I think that sharing is a very good thing as you can, when you are sharing, you're also learning, and also you can get more people to engage with you, with the technologies, with the things you're interested in. And also when you are sharing, you're also learning. And also you can train your public speaking skills. You can actually you can able to speak a lot in front of people. And yeah, if you're interested, you can take a screenshot, and then take a screenshot. You can film the form, then we'll evaluate your content. Then we may assign a time for you to have, so you to host one of the Xshare session. Yeah. So this is our next coming Xshare. So another is on next Friday, same day today, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll discuss about introduction to Google technologies, and also the game devs, introduction game dev, the starting line. Yeah. So that's all for my promotion on this Xshare event. So I want you guys to do you guys fill in the feedback form for this workshop? Yeah, you can actually click on the link. I wish everyone can actually share it, can actually fill in the form so that we can gather more feedback to improve it. And yeah, so you may type in the chat sessions about how you feel about the workshop today. Yeah, good, bad, or anything to improve. You can just write in the chat session. Yeah, anything. Yeah, anything you want to talk about.
Okay, so I would like to thank everyone for coming to this session today. I hope I haven't made it too boring for you guys, because I also hate boring lecture sessions actually. So I've tried to make it as chill and as calm as possible, and as beginner friendly as possible. So I hope I managed to do it. If you guys have any feedback, please do fill in the form. If you guys hate this session, also, if you guys think I have done a bad job, also please just say it out. Type it in the feedback form. Like what Linus has said, if you like it, leave a like. If you don't like it, leave a dislike. Just be honest, okay? So yeah, honesty is the best policy. So again, thank you guys for taking your time to attend. It means a lot. So hope we can have other events. We can meet in other events. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Yeah, and also wish you guys can fill in the form. And how do you feel about it? The session today, you can write in the chat session, or you have nothing to talk about, then yeah, that's all for today's session. Yeah. So yeah, you will look forward to next event, so you can attend our Xshare meetup one on next Friday. Yeah, on next Friday, 8 to 9 p.m. You'll discuss about introduction to Google technologies, and also the game dev introduction. Yeah. So yeah, wish you guys have a good night. Have a good time learning Python and having fun during programming. I wish it is fun. Yeah, the starting will be a little torture, but yeah, you will get to it. Programming is interesting. You also train your logic thinking skills and all kind of things. Yeah. So really thank everyone to attend today. Yeah, that's the all for this Python workshop 101 for beginners. We may have our next session. Yeah, depends on the audience feedback, and also our discussion, our committee discussion. Yeah. So yeah, so everyone, fill in the form, and yeah, see you next time. See you next Friday. Bye.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
everyone.
You guys can leave now if you want. Actually,
You guys can leave, or you wanna
if you
talk
want to
about
chat or talk about Kim, you can also write in the chat. His
wanna
face
talk
is
about
on.
any?
His face is on the screen now.
Don't
In case
highlight
you haven't
me.
noticed. No, I will highlight you.
Stop spotlighting me. Bye. Hey.